It was Mombasa's turn to host another round of the State House summits, and this time it was about tourism. The government says it has worked round the clock to grow tourism in the country despite massive difficulties.
Singh had one notable absentee. Governor Ali Hassan Joho, who was not amused by being left out of the summit. Joho has dismissed the tourism summit as a public relations exercise.
Now it is time for context, analysis, and fair comment. My name is Sharon Mumanyi.
And I am Julie Masiga. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Ladies' Night on News Sources. The program begins right now, but first, the highlights.
Let's not say government, national, and county. It's one Kenya. It has to be one cohesive product that we are proud on.
Goes into your integrity and you're honest. To mislead our whole chair and our whole committee. When we met you.
Choose your party ahead of time. Yes, choose your party ahead of time. And once you have chosen your party, for heaven's sake, stick to it.
Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala says the government has and continues to do enough to grow tourism in the country. Balala, however, decries what he terms as double standards on travel advisories, saying such actions are choking the industry. The CS also put county governments on the spot, asking them to be quote-unquote innovative in coming up with tourism products.
If we, all of us, the whole country is going to have cultural festivals, then we are not innovative. Everybody wants to have a marathon. For example, somebody came from Mount Kenya and said, I want to do a marathon for Mount Kenya. I said, why do a marathon? Already we have a marathon elsewhere. Why don't you concentrate and be innovative and have a one-month festival of climbing Mount Kenya? That could be innovative. So we can all go there. Lewa Marathon is already established. Why don't we go to Lewa? Why don't we go do a conservation program in Masai Mara for wildlife? Why do we have to have a marathon in Masai Mara? Why do we have to have a marathon in Kakamega Forest? While we can do camping and bird watching in Kakamega Forest. These are the innovations we need to do. We don't just copy and paste.
And on this show, we shall be putting a sharp focus on the tourism matters in the country. But first, let me introduce our guest tonight. To my immediate left is Betty Waitherero, who is a blogger. And then we also have Njambi Mungai, who is a digital content specialist, works with us here at the Standard Group. And of course, my co-host, Julie Masiga. Right, so ladies, this took a lot of discussions today at the summit in Mombasa. It's so, stakeholders talking about the merits of the tourism industry, the milestones, some of the things that are hindering development of the country. What are some of your takes from what were discussed in the summit?
Well, first of all, I think that I have to agree with the minister about the sort of strides Kenya has taken to revive the industry. As we recall, the amount of damage the terror attacks and the insecurity has caused the industry, especially along the coast, has really affected the entire economy of the coastal region. So I'd say that we have come a long way, but of course that there's still a lot more to be done. Some really important issues are raised about the prices of hotels being lowered, and
right.
the prices for KQ, making it more conducive
and
for
park fees,
yes.
just as incentives to have
more, and make it more conducive for Kenyans themselves to become their own biggest source of tourism, which if you compare with, I hate to do the comparison with the first world country, but if you compare the kind of tourists you'd find in New York City, for instance, majority of them are Americans themselves.
Right.
So, and I think that we can actually cultivate that sort of culture where we are the biggest enjoyers of our own facilities, our own resources. and our own heritage.
And of course, domestic tourism has been expensive for most of us, actually, as citizens. And of course, some of the things that were also pointed out in the summit is some infrastructural challenges, but also some gains. And Jambi, what stood out for you?
Well, I'm a local tourist myself. I'm very, very adamant about that. But let me first talk about the copy-pasting issue that keeps going on, not just in our businesses, not just in our social life, but even in our tourism. I experienced probably what is the fastest river in Kenya. I didn't know it was the fastest river. It's in Nyeri. But you see, Nyeri is not even selling that as a selling point. We want to have marathons.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Ondiri is the second deepest wetland in Africa. No one is marketing that. And that's what Najib Balala is talking about. We need to be more innovative when it comes to you. Be proud. Sell your county for its uniqueness, not because you've seen this county has done this and this county has done this. Let's talk infrastructure. Masai Mara, to be honest. This Masai Mara has been our attraction for decades. And yet the roads, once again, over and over again, I believe 2 billion has been put aside for the infrastructure renovation, but still it's taken too long. Why is it taking too long? And why is the roads minister saying that now we have an emergency recarpeting? There's a huge disconnect
and
between
being one of the biggest resources of the country,
Yes.
you would imagine that it would be a priority.
It should be a priority.
Right.
So in as much as the government is or rather Najib is talking that the government is trying, it needs to do a lot more than what it's doing right now.
And of course, Julie, later on, we'll be talking to the governor of Mombasa, Ali Hassan Joho, because the issue of, breaking down of the functions, tourism and that innovation that we are talking about, is it a national function? What is the role of county governments in this? But also the tourism ministry got the biggest ever budget this year, 5.2 billion shillings, I believe. Do you think that with this, more money is available now for the ministry? Can we expect to see more?
Some more action, because the minister actually did say they were allocating, more money to the ministry, and 1.2 billion shillings of that is going to go to marketing of tourism. Now, if you were saying that the counties, whose responsibility is it to market the counties? Is it the national government, or is it the county government level, given that there's 1.2 billion shillings on the table? But what they were talking about mostly is kind of like easing taxation in the industry. That's most of what they're trying to do to save this industry. And I wondered, is that enough? Because they were saying that no VAT on park entry prices, they were not going to tax service charge for waiters. They had a few measures that they talked about that didn't seem that they were wide-ranging. But then again, marketing is important, but then infrastructure is perhaps even
what do you
more.
know?
Because
What
you have to have something good to
Exactly.
market, yes.
And what are you marketing? Let's take conservation, for instance. One of my clients that is is keen on supporting conservation of rhinos, elephants, and especially in Tsavo National Park. You have a situation where 54 elephants have been poached since 2014. We don't even have that many. You have another 24 rhinos being poached in the same area. And the total number in the entire country is about 600. So it's quite a serious
So conservation
situation.
is
So
actually
when
one thing they should be doing.
Exactly. So when you're talking about you're spending all this money on marketing, what are you marketing? People are going to come there and they're not going to see any rhinos. They're not going to see any biodiversity, no elephants, no nothing. And you need to think about, okay, how else can we support the parks that we're talking about, the things that we're saying. That
So like a value chain kind of an
exactly.
approach.
And one of the areas that should be receiving some of this support, even if it's through this particular fund, through the tourism ministry, should be the KWS. That's what I feel strongly.
And another thing that we are not pointing out is corruption.
Yes.
This budget that has been put aside is bound to leak to all the wrong places. I think it was the Samburu Festival that just concluded, and a lot of money is not accounted for. So already we are just ruining tourism in itself. So corruption has to be looked into.
So corruption is like the biggest elephant
probably one
in
of
the
the
room,
biggest
if you will, which we need not conserve. But moving on, the biggest story from the summit happened outside. The summit, outside the summit. And the national government, the biggest story from the summit happened outside the summit. Mombasa County and the national government are tonight exchanging harsh words. CS Najib Balala says, and I quote, that the government communicated to the Kenya governors, and it is for that reason that Narok Governor Samuel Tunai is here in Mombasa. However, Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho disputes this tweet, and I quote, how can Najib Balala talk about involving county governments And he doesn't even bother to invite the host and coast counties to such a forum. Joho further said that such PR exercises will not advance our tourism. We can now talk to Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho, joining us live from his county. Governor, can you hear us? Welcome to the show, Governor
Yes,
Joho.
I can.
This is not the first time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. I'll just dive right into it. This is not the first time that you are accusing the national government of not involving you when the president visits your county. Do you think it's about your county itself or perhaps your political stand?
Well, first of all, let me say that it is the seriousness of the conversation that we're having this morning. And I want to begin by saying that you cannot purport to have a serious conversation on tourism in the coastal counties without involving the 6 coastal counties. And therefore, I find it unfortunate that the CS would imagine the governor of Narok would invite the host governor to discuss issues that are so important to do with tourism in the county that I am leading as governor. So my take is that they ought to give it the seriousness that it deserves. They discussed matters that are devolved functions, for example, matters to do with environment, general cleanness, support infrastructure. And then even if you wanted to take the route where you're saying tax reduction would help revive tourism or salvage, they must also be reminded that county governments also do charge levies. And therefore, it is critical for us to have been in the conversation. And point to note also that every county, for me here in Mombasa, I take tourism very, very seriously. And I don't think Jubilee government does the same, because as a matter of fact, a lot of our young people are employed because of hospitality industry. And therefore, our involvement, and I want to be clear, I'm not whining, I'm not complaining that I've been snubbed. I don't mind not going to State House. I mean, my business is not really going to State House. But the fact remains that when we have such serious conversations, the governors from the 6 coastal counties, if they found it important to invite Governor Tonoi, they as well should have found it very necessary to invite the 6 coastal governors who were more than willing to attend. In fact, I've spoken to a few of my colleagues who were saying if they were informed, they would have happily be in the conversation.
Right.
Counties are doing a lot to diversify the product. They are selling their destination. But
Governor
let
Joho,
me tell you, national government, Jubilee government, the CS Tourism cannot succeed to sell this destination on its own.
Can you just explain to us then whose responsibility it is? Who is responsible for what when it comes to tourism in the county? Who's responsible for actual supporting and structure of the industry?
I want to begin from. Well, I want to begin first of all with the current conversation. Today, the CS said that the cities are dark, the cities are dead. We agree. We are saying that we need to diversify on even how we market our products as a destination. And it begins with what we sell, what we say. You cannot have an engagement across the world about Mombasa without the involvement of the leadership of Mombasa or the people of Mombasa. For example, I can tell you, we had one of the most successful cultural festival last week. National government did not take part. We had over 160,000 people attending. That time, I am aware that at that week, there were several hotels that were reporting 100% occupancy. For me, these are efforts the counties are doing, and we're doing a lot more. I personally have traveled. I have been able to go abroad to convince airlines. For example, I had a conversation with Emirates Airline to start a direct flight from Dubai to link us to the rest of the world. Even though I know it's not our mandate, but out of the goodwill, out of the constitutionalism that all of us must uphold, we do what we have to do so that we can help both the industry and the counties to grow.
Governor Joho, it's sounding like it's a bit of a competition between the county government and the national government. Is there no possibility for the 2 arms of government to work together for the benefit of Kenya and the counties?
That is a point. That is the point. We're behaving, and I'm particularly concerned on the behavior of the Jubilee government. Let me be clear. State House is not a place where somebody just from nowhere can walk in. And I can assure you, if this function was to be held in a hotel, I would have been there, invited or not. But you must remember, it was done in, at the State House. And I could not just walk up in the morning and walked into the State House. But I want to remind the national government, we cannot be in, in a competition. The Constitution has given us clear guidelines of how we can engage. So for me, I don't think CS Tourism has been honest by saying that I've invited Tonoi to invite the others. I mean, that doesn't work. We can't be in competition. We want tourism to thrive. We have a role to play, whether by talking about the destination, whether by telling our story. I think we're better placed as a people of Mombasa to tell our own story. And therefore, for me, I don't think they've been honest in issues of reviving tourism.
Well, thank you for your comments there, Governor. I'm sure we'll come back to you a bit later in the show. But moving on now, I believe Sharon will have...
Well, in keeping with previous summits, this one focused on the bigger picture. Indeed, the issues around tourism have been well articulated in the past. Kenya's Tourism Board has not done enough to market Kenya to Kenyans, and there have also been questions to do with security and infrastructure to access key tourist attractions. Just to name a few, these issues were again ventilated at the State House Summit in Mombasa, and we continue to speak to Governor Ali Hassan Joho from Mombasa, of course, noting that Mombasa County has particularly been, subject to a number of cases of insecurity. And just if you can still hear me, if you are still with us, Governor Joho, to what extent has your county, gone to deal with the issue of insecurity vis-a-vis tourism in Mombasa?
Well, you'll remember when we had to deal with the issue of advisories, we took a leading role. And in fact, the 6 governors from this region met with probably all the ambassadors that had an advisory on the county that we lead. But I want to tell you, it is the conversations that all of us had together, and I'll be clear, together, because we have a role, whether it is about getting our people to talk, whether it is involvement of the community on how they can help to tackle insecurity, and whether we can do certain things ourselves as county. For example, here in Mombasa, we have initiated night patrols using county vehicles so that we can allow counties such as this one, security, tranquility, and people can walk freely when they can. Tourists must come to Kenya and be able to enjoy totally Kenya. And I want to tell you, we have seen results. We in Mombasa have engaged the tourism fraternity largely. And I want to remind you that this is not the first conversations that people are having. We've had several conversations around what we need to do to revive tourism. And we have participated fully as county governments. We have involved the community. We have, for example, issues to do with radicalization, extremism. It is the county government that took the leading role in dealing with issues to do with radicalization. When Mombasa was hot, when Majengo was a no-go zone, it is myself and the other elected leaders that came forward to have an engagement with the people, to tell them that, you know what, this is about your lives. If you lose, if we have serious insecurity, it therefore means that we cannot expect to have visitors coming to our county.
Right.
And therefore, everybody has a role. I do have a role. The community has a role. And I think there can never be better representation of the community rather than the leaders who they've elected,
Right.
like ourselves and other leaders within the county.
Right. Governor, let's talk solutions now. Of course, we've noted that there is a big disconnect between the national government and county governments with regard to this function of tourism. There's also been questions of infrastructural development, incentives for tourism. Where do you think the solutions to all this lie?
Well, Article 6 of the Constitution is clear. And therefore, what we want to do is to talk. People must engage because the counties are developing their master plans. I have, for example, developed the Vision 2035 for Mombasa. It takes care of certain infrastructural issues that are supportive towards the tourism industry. And therefore, national government or Jubilee government must hear us out. What are our plans so that they can be able to plan in tandem with what we have put in place. Without that, let me tell you, there will be reputation. There will be everybody talking about the same thing, same product. For example, I told the tourism fraternity when I met them the last time that we need together to diversify. We need to change the narrative. We need to market like the other destinations that are thriving. And in certain areas, we really do not need to reinvent the wheel. You need to look how Dubai markets. You need to see probably how New York markets and be able to localize, domesticate so that it can fit into our market. We cannot comfortably say we want to sell a beach destination. We want to combine beach destination together with the safaris and the other activities that would get the young people to come to Kenya. I want to tell you, if you look, for example, at Ibiza, where there's always a flock, and it's a seasonal destination. There's thousands and thousands of people that go there only during summer. But what is it that they do right? Mm-hmm. Why can't we tap into such market? Right. Because nowadays, if I want to go for a holiday, first of all, I must consult my children. And therefore, we must have products that would make sense to families, not just the ordinary beach. There are beaches all over the world. All right. And therefore, for us to change that, the counties are critical players.
All right, Governor, let's swing in some politics into this now.
Source of conflict between Jubilee and CORD. The Jubilee coalition has between Jubilee and CORD. The Jubilee coalition has since 2013 made forays into the region, but going by the Malindi by-election, ODM still holds sway in that part of the country. Jubilee, however, insists that the winds of change are fast blowing across the region as rebel MPs continue to dig in. I believe Governor Joho is still with us. Governor Joho, are you with us?
Yeah. Yes, I'm with you, and I want to tell you,
can I ask the question
Malindi
first?
by-election is a testimony, and I can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, just in keeping with what I read, the region has traditionally been a CORD zone, so to speak. Do you think it's perhaps not? Are we moving the Jubilee direction, or what is happening there?
No, I can tell you for sure that a few leaders, and my advice to them is that they're doing this at their own risk. And I can tell you saw the kind of resources they mobilized for Malindi by-election, and results was very clear. And therefore, for me, I know for a fact, Jubilee, they can do as much as they want. They can even move their base to Mombasa or to coast largely. But I can assure you that CORD remains the most strong movement in the coastal region. And I don't think the few leaders that have shifted allegiance towards Jubilee would change anything. In fact, if anything, they are the ones at risk with their positions.
This today, you had a bit of a Twitter brawl with the CS Balala talking about the summit, and you said that there was a need to have real conversations, and there was a bit of tension, and then later in the day you were with President Uhuru Kenyatta at Kongowea saying that the county government should work with the national government. Wasn't CS Balala speaking on behalf or acting on behalf of the national government when he organized the summit? And how do you reconcile the two positions, where on one hand the county is supreme and on the other hand you want to work with the government?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You see, if you read our constitution well, Article 6 is very, very clear that we are interdependent. The two levels of government are interdependent. And therefore, there has to be clear ways of communication. There has to be intergovernmental engagement. For example, we have had this issue of dumping site in Mombasa, where some arms of national government would just go and issue pronouncements without talking to us. We have a plan, but they wouldn't want to talk to us about our plan. We welcome positive ideas. This afternoon I was at the Kongowea Market. Kongowea Market is a construction completed that is funded by the national government. And this was as a result of a project that had stalled, undertaken during the Grand Coalition regime. And I want to tell you, we welcomed it. That is why I took time to go there. And I said this to the president and everybody that was there was in that meeting, that we are not competing with national government. We play our role and we expect them to play their role. After all, we're serving the same citizens of this great country of ours.
On that note,
we do a bit. The market today that we opened, today, they did one road, entry road, the county did one road, exit road. They completed the building that had been initiated by, at that time, the local government minister, Musiala Mudavadi. We did refurbishing and renovation of the other buildings. And that is how two levels of governments should be able to work.
That's true enough, but earlier in the day you dismissed the summit as a PR gimmick, just public relations on the part of the Jubilee government.
It is. How do you have serious conversations?
What about the opening of the Kongowea market?
To do with 6
also
counties,
sounds a
that
bit
is
of
so
a PR
important tourism.
exercise.
No, you see, Kongowea market, they did the building, they notified us. The county government was involved in the planning. The county government actually was notified of the visit of the Kongowea market by the Minister for Infrastructure. And that is why we took time to be there. And if they indeed invite us for any other function, we are more than willing to attend for the sake of the citizens of this country, but not in a manner that they did today. They hold a function at a restricted area, State House. We cannot, and I want to repeat, if they held this in White Sands Hotel, for example, I would have been there, invited or not, because these are important conversations that touches on the lives of the people of this county. But without that, we are unable to move forward. So there has to be serious conversations that we mean well, we want to do what is the best of the interests of the people, that we will be more than willing to be there. And that is why I was in Kongowea. And if tomorrow they invite me for any other function, formally, properly, I will be there. But if they go on their own, I will be very clear that they never involved us.
Well, thank you so much, Governor Joho, for your time this evening, for joining us and for sharing your thoughts. We hope you'll feel free to come back on our show again. Thank you so much. Ladies, what are your thoughts on Governor Joho's comments? They are quite passionate.
Okay, I just find it, as you pointed out to him, that to him it was a PR exercise to hold the summit in the morning, but not a PR exercise to open a market. And to me, it actually, he might have gotten it twisted around. I think that the stakeholders summit was not a PR exercise, that just opening a market was actually, anyone could have done that.
But what do you feel about what they say about not being invited, the governors?
I understand where Joho is coming from. What happened is Najib Balala held a big party in his household and expected that the sticker that Najib put in the gate, the main gate, is going to serve as notice to him that this is happening. It was very wrong not to. It was in bad taste. There's no question about it. And when he says the opening of the Kongowea market, it's because they had bought into it. They had a say. Their issues were actually addressed. That is the difference between the morning summit and the summit was a good idea, but ideally stakeholders should have been invited.
And I was going to say, either way, whether you're invited or not, these are issues that touch on your constituents, on the people, in your county. And I like that he says he would have gone anyway, even without an invitation.
Yes.
It's just that it was at a place that had no access.
I think that there's also, just to add on to what you said, there is also an underlying tension that he did not want to talk about. Najib Balala has been put suggested as a front person on Jubilee's side to run against him in the next election for governor of Mombasa. And that is probably an area where they have real tension, where they may be not able to get past it and communicate like governments are supposed to communicate at the national and county level. If the situation was as he describes, that there was no direct address to him, having the summit being held within his own county, I agree with Njambi, it's actually in poor taste, but I find it difficult. You see, the way that Najib Balala phrased it is that he alerted the Council of Governors, and that is why Tunai had attended as well. That is an example of the number of governors who are alerted and chose to attend. So according to the way I've understood it, I'm not speaking for him, but the way I've understood it is that they were all alerted. They were all told about this event. And in as much as it was held in Mombasa, just let me face it on in case I'm going to ring a bell on me. Yeah, but even in as much as it was held in Mombasa, it was held within the mandate of the national government and within State House. So in as far as that is concerned, I think that he did receive an adequate invitation.
But don't you think
Well,
in this
as the
case
host
would
governor,
be
right?
Yeah,
We have to take
we
we
have
have
to
to
make
take
a
a break.
personal invitation
Ladies,
here.
and we've talked expansively on this issue of the tourism summit that took place at State House, Mombasa, and of course the sentiments there by the governor forming the basis of our Twitter poll tonight. And we're asking you, do you think that the tourism summit at the coast is a Jubilee PR gimmick? Do you think that the tourism summit at the coast is a Jubilee PR gimmick? Do tweet us your thoughts and views on this at KTN News, at Sharon Momanyi, and at Julie Masiga, and we shall sample your views at the tail end of this show. Right now, we want to take a short commercial break. Don't go too far. When we return, more discussions.